People born with their North Node in Taurus have their South Node in Scorpio, and they may be unconsciously attached to endless complications, powerful emotions, and struggles in life. Through the path of developing their North Node in Taurus, they're called to let go of some drama, learn to relax, and be more present. Today, I'm going to talk about North Node in Taurus and South Node in Scorpio in more depth. My name is Anastasia. I'm a traditional Western astrologer specializing in natal, relationship, and predictive astrology. If you're new here, please subscribe to my channel, leave me a comment, and hit the like button. If you'd like to book a reading with me, you can check the links down below. So I have done a video talking about the recent nodal shift that happened on January 19th, 2022, when the nodes shifted from Sagittarius, Gemini into Scorpio and Taurus. You can check that out and find out more about the current events and more about what the nodes mean in general. But, to kind of give you an introduction, lunar nodes are not planets. They are mathematical points of intersection between the sun, the moon, and the earth. And every time those align and we get a new or full moon, we get eclipses. So there is really deep kind of energy behind the nodes. And in our natal chart, they carry an energy of South Node usually represents something you're letting go, something you're familiar with, but it's in a way no longer satisfying to you. And the North Node is the hungry material energy in our life. Once again, check out that video to find out more. I go into a lot more depth. So now, if you were born with North Node in Taurus, let's first talk about your South Node. South Node being that something that you have mastered, something that feels familiar. You have South Node in Scorpio, right? And Scorpio is the sign that is associated with challenging emotions, with dark and powerful experiences from which we have the power to transform and grow and learn to have a sense of control in our lives. So a lot of times people with their North Node in Taurus may have experienced a lot of challenging events growing up. Maybe there was a lack of stability in the home. Maybe parents were kind of controlling or demanding. This is, crazy enough, is my grandfather's placement, and he grew up in World War II. He was a teenager in the occupied village, like Russian village occupied by Germans. So growing up, he clearly experienced a lack of stability. And so whatever it may have been for you, hopefully, not World War II, but there may have been tough experiences when you were growing up. And trauma, right? Some kind of like wounding. And maybe through that experience, you come out on the other side with a bit of skepticism and with mistrust of people or mistrust of situations. And it's kind of, it's well-deserved. If you've dealt with challenging events in life, you may be more suspicious. Even people in your life may say that, like, maybe you're negative and you tend to see the worst in people or situations, or you're kind of expecting the worst. My grandpa, until the end of his life, he would always imagine the worst case scenario. Like, he would see a dream about an airplane falling, and he would imagine that as I'm flying to see them, something bad happened to me. And it never did. But there's almost that like core memory, some kind of memory of things going wrong, and you're almost expecting it to happen on a deeper level. You may be drawn to spiritual teachings, to some kind of wisdom to be found in astrology, tarot, magic, Kabbalah, any of those kind of spiritual things. Usually people with South Node in Scorpio, North Node in Taurus are highly intuitive, but sometimes there might be that sense of like, you are very intuitive and you have an in-depth understanding of other people, yet because you are so self-protective, you maybe sometimes use that to manipulate people or manipulate situations into getting the outcome that works for you. So you really want to be aware of that. You want to pay attention to how you use your powers, right? Use your powers for good. You may be interested in darker things in life, like scary movies, detective novels, sexual experiences that are not necessarily fulfilling, but kind of intense, explosive, dramatic. And there might also be like a tendency to sabotage relationships unconsciously a lot of times, right? Because you're so used to things not being stable, you may be triggering other people and observing their responses, not necessarily consciously. I'm just thinking of someone I dated for like, we went on a few dates, and it did end in some weird thing that he told me, and I was like, whoa, you know, that didn't need to happen. So as you work with this energy, with that South Node in Scorpio, you can find the higher vibing energy of Scorpio, right? You can be a source of light for people going through tough times. That is always the strength of people with South Node in Scorpio. You have mastered emotional stability in a lot of ways, like because you've had those deep emotional experiences, you can be a guide for those people going through things like that, right? Like you can be a therapist, you can teach them through like philosophy, Buddhism, like religious things, maybe like spiritual things. You can provide a lot of insights to people because you have that understanding of tough experiences, because you've either been through them or you have awareness of them, right? Not every person with North Node in Taurus, South Node in Scorpio necessarily grew up in a super toxic environment. There might be almost like a soulful core, on a soul level, on a core level memory of that kind of stuff. So you can use your occult powers, you can be like, you know, a therapist, a psychologist, a tarot reader. And actually, that is something that, once again, will be kind of like easy for you. And I think because North Node in Taurus is calling you to find some kind of material stability, while you may have access to that emotional stability materially and like physically in the real world, there's not a lot of stability because you're so not used to it. You're kind of constantly expecting things to fall apart. So using those intuitive powers, psychic powers, for building something stable, right? Like becoming a provider, becoming a business owner, having some kind of like another thing, you know, with Taurus, North Node, you may truly benefit from like getting an insurance policy because considering like you have that fear of things falling apart, right? Like you can, having an insurance policy will be good for you. So you're ultimately, with North Node in Taurus, you're learning to calm down. You can, if you know, even in your life, right? Like if you're dating some people with strong Scorpio placements, they may feel like home to you. They may feel familiar and intense and kind of dramatic. They offer that raw connection, and that's great. But sometimes your love for turbulence might meet their love for turbulence if they haven't processed this energy in themselves, so they haven't mastered it. And maybe together it's just too explosive. So if you meet Taurus people in your life, you may almost be like frustrated by them, right? Because they may have a tendency to push problems aside and pretend like they don't exist and be so kind of like stubborn, right? Like turn away from intensity, turn away from drama. But in that way, they create stability. They explore those topics of like presence in the body and loyalty and commitment and security. And that is something that you need to balance your intensity with. So lean into, connect with more Taurus people because they can teach you to calm down. They can teach you to be more present, right? Scorpio, Taurus is kind of like, Scorpio is the war, and Taurus is the peaceful garden. And you can still enjoy the peaceful garden while having an awareness of war. I believe Atuda Bava of Nightlight Astrology gave that comparison in his talk on Scorpios. And it really struck a chord with me because I think a lot of times if you have strong Scorpio placements, you may have that tendency to drag people into your dark world. And you don't always have to do that, right? Like you don't always have to bring people down with you. So you know, learning to calm down, learning to be in your body, learning to relax, learning to be bored sometimes without the need to create drama, right? Like being still, being relaxed. And some of the ways you can actually work on this is like creating comfort in your home, having a bed filled with pillows, and putting beautiful art in your house, and having a lounge area where you're just chilling and reading a book. Working in the garden. My grandpa was super in the last part of his life, actually, and that's the thing, North Node takes a while to develop. Like, it takes us a while to fully connect with it. So you may be leaning into your South Node very heavily in the first 40 years of your life, that Scorpio energy, and then as soon as you, not as soon, but the closer you get to your 40s, mid 40s, the more in touch with your North Node you become. So my grandpa ended up, you know, building a stable family, becoming a patriarch of the family. He built a farmhouse in his 60s, which is incredibly amazing. And then my whole life, he was basically, until the last years of his life, he was going to that farmhouse and bringing food back, and like such a Taurian thing. He was also a Virgo sun, but I think, like, you know, connecting with the ground, connecting with nature, like going into the nature. And, you know, nature is full of drama, right? Like there is survival instincts kicking in a lot of animals. They're fighting for their lives, but there's still a lot of beauty and stillness and peace. So it's kind of uniting those two, Taurus and Scorpio energy, being aware of the drama, but knowing that there's peace and finding that peace. So connecting with your body, getting massages, wearing comfy clothes, trying to, you know, connect with your inner peace, having stable relationships, which might be tough for you, but it's also something that your soul desires, right? Maybe instinctively you kind of like have a knee-jerk reaction to sabotage and run and create drama, but ultimately you're learning to be more and more stable and more loyal. And you do that in a lot of ways by becoming a provider, by becoming a source of financial security and stability for your family. And of course, you know, you want to make sure you're using your intuitive powers, because you cannot be a source of financial stability, or just like you cannot have a stable home a lot of times without the understanding of what it takes. And I think with the Scorpio South Node, you have a lot of that like inner strength and power that comes from tough experiences. So use your intuitive powers for good. Every time you feel like maybe you've leaned too heavily into stability, go and like read a detective novel, have passionate night out, you know, dive into tarot astrology. Yeah, like you can experience drama through the outside, right? Don't bring it into your life. Look at it from the outside sources. I hope this resonated. Please let me know in the comments below. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.